All right, our guest today led the Seattle Seahawks to the Super Bowl, and then the refs did their thing, and his team unfortunately lost. But on Monday night, he will be a big winner as he's rightfully and finally inducted into the Seahawks Ring of Honor. You could see him on ESPN Sunday NFL Countdown every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Matt Hasselbeck, thanks for being here.
Hey, that's quite an introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, and well, it's a big night, Monday, Ring of Honor. You don't have to wear those terrible color rush jerseys, right? You can bring any of your jerseys hanging in your closet.
I would love to. You know, they do give me a sport coat for this thing. If it's a color rush sport coat, it'd be probably be pretty fly, actually. I don't know if I could rock it, but I'm sure it would look good.
Yeah, that's going to be great. The crowd will be going nuts. 12th man. We were talking the other day, Dave and I were discussing, maybe Martin, we were discussing how there is a lack of bald quarterbacks in the NFL, and that you may be the best one of all time. I don't know that this will be mentioned in the Ring of Honor ceremony, but I'm telling you, I'm talking about it right now.
I mean, best looking for sure. You know, like I think that one of my main regrets in life, and definitely in my football career, is that I held onto my hair too long. The problem was for us is that my backup quarterback, or the guy that I was competing with at the time, was Trent Dilfer, who was already bald.
Right.
Our punter was Jeff Fiegels, who was bald. Our captain on special teams, Isaiah Kazavinsky, the linebacker from Harvard, he was bald. Our equipment guy that we hung out with, he was like, we would have just looked like this, I don't know, like a biker gang or something. Yeah. So I went with the old man cul-de-sac look, hold on too long. It was a terrible look, but I just wasn't really sure. It's that in-between stage. You're never really sure what to do with your hair.
Yeah, it was like Breaking Bad reboot in Seahawks camp that year. Yeah. For sure.
More dignified, though, because you say held on to your hair, but maybe the greatest bald quarterback is Terry Bradshaw, but he literally could hold on to his hair because he took it off before and after ball games. So
that's interesting. He's got the Super Bowl ring, so that's good.
That's true.
There's a picture in the NFC Championship game. I remember I had a hat on, and Terry Bradshaw is presenting the Hallis Trophy at the on the podium there. And at that point, I was like a little insecure about my baldness, right? And I was definitely like, in Terry Bradshaw, classic Terry Bradshaw style, just like rips my hat off and puts his right cheek of his face next to my left cheek of my face, and like we're doing this like amazing like bald is beautiful type photo. And I started getting endorsement deals for like all these like head shaving products.
Oh, that's great.
During Super Bowl week. But I was super paranoid that it was like all a ploy to get like real slick, like slippery, like baby oil type substances on my hands. And so I wouldn't touch it before the Super Bowl. I was like, oh, this is a trick. It's a Trojan horse. It's a Steeler fan doing this to me or something. And years later, now I use the product to shave my head, but I was so paranoid for the Super Bowl.
Nice.
I didn't know if I was going to bring this up but now that we've spent so much time talking about the fact that you're bald, I feel obligated to do so. I grew up in New Orleans. I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. So
I know where you're going.
Won the division at 7-9. That was like I irrationally hated you, Marshawn Lynch, all of it. But it made me so much more upset and has ruined balding athletes for me going forward now. Like Alex Caruso. I had no, like, I could not see him and think he was like a good basketball player or anything, because the whole time I was watching you just throw a party on the Saints, I was like, this guy doesn't even have hair. He's bald. Do something. And to this day now, I'll be watching the game and guy will be going bald. A guy will be balding. They're like, get his bald ass out of here. You're like, what do you have against bald people? And I'm thinking about it. It's Matt freaking Hasselbeck.
Well, it's an unathletic look, if you don't shave it all the way. Like, I think the best example for me right now is Hunter Renfrow of the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, that dude is a killer in the slot. That dude is like uncoverable at times. Then he gets to the sideline and takes his helmet off, and you're like, huh? What? You're the guy we can't cover? It's like a pickup basketball game at lunch or something to get some guy with a knee sleeve on and he's bald. You just don't, you're surprised.
Yeah, usually the bald guy wears his sock, who doesn't shave it all the way clean, also pulls his socks up to his knees, and he defends you 27 feet from the rim, like right in your face. He's all over. You're like, settle down, fella. Now,
by the way,
go ahead. The patron saint for people like me who have the flesh yarmulke in the back.
Yeah, the sunroof.
Right. Manu Ginobili. He was like, I always thought, man, maybe you just take that thing off because that ain't looking, that does not look very tough on an NBA playoff floor.
By the way,
it's impressive. I think like bald guys everywhere, balding guys, male pattern baldness, when they see like Ginobili like balling out there, it's kind of like, all right, yeah, that's like my new favorite guy. I remember looking up to Jason Kidd, Cal Ripken Jr. I loved every Bruce Willis movie, Woody Harrelson, Michael Jordan. The list goes on and on.
The Rock, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and this may be where you thought Martin was going with this, with Drew Brees, who he now mysteriously has hair on television, and this didn't happen to you, Matt, when you turned your career to TV. This happened, like Brian Urlacher did it too, right? Like this is this a surprise to you? Do you feel like this is like when short people wear lifts? It's like, whoa, you're cheating here to get an acting role. I know it was a big thing on Seinfeld.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit this one out. That's
okay.
I don't know that I'm ready to really process it. Gotcha. Urlacher, Wes Welker. There's some of these guys like I'm not ready to, I don't know. And what are they? I guess the question is, what do they feel about me and my baldness?
Resentful.
I don't know.
You and Ed Harris, you're virally masculine because you're not worrying about it like those Vane guys are.
Well, I would say this. I think one of the best looking bald guys, ironically, is Jason Witten. And Jason Witten, I don't know what happened there for a second, but I think he looks awesome the way he is right now. So anyway, shout out to Jason Witten for looking good right now.
That's nice. That's nice. I want to say now that the Manning cast has been so successful, have you gone to the executives at Bristol and say, hey, how about a Hasselbeck brothers little duet here?
I actually like sitting on my own couch with a red Solo cup watching the Manning cast. So
okay.
I don't need cameras. I sort of like being off during the games, but maybe someday I did a mega cast. I've done a mega cast for the wild card game last year. Mm-hmm. It was the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson against Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and Tennessee Titans.
That's right.
And it was an interesting dynamic because it was like rotating people. So it was Rex Ryan, Teddy Bruschi. It was like super great. But we also had Keyshawn Johnson sort of hosting it. Mm-hmm. And, I felt like Keyshawn was more like an expert as a football player, more so than like a host. So I think like it would have been really, really fun if like we all had beverages and food, but we were in a studio and kind of like had to go to commercials.
They sterilize it. Yeah,
it was fun, but I think Peyton and Eli are doing an awesome job.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Eli's the star.
How about this? I would watch a simulcast of you and Tim with the red cups watching Peyton and Eli. Like I would even watch that. I think that's fine.
Well, you know what? I just really like, we know Peyton's personality, but I don't think a lot of people have really seen real version of Eli, because he's so buttoned up and measured. And my dad was actually teammates with Archie Manning in 1984, the Minnesota Vikings. We were like 3-13 that year. Not great football necessarily, but great youth football at practice. I can promise you that with Cooper Manning, Peyton Manning, those guys. But just knowing their personalities, they're actually very, very funny guys. So I'm glad that that's starting to come out and people get to see that side of them.
Oh, for sure.
I think the red Solo cup thing is curious to me. So are you having a kegger at the house? You're Matt Hasselbeck. You don't have a fancy glass mug to drink your booze out of?
I like the mystery. I like the mystery of it. There's a lot of judgment in what you decide to drink, but I'm a calorie counter right now, so, like is a seltzer, like how are people going to feel about me drinking a seltzer, So like if a red Solo cup needs to be my friend, it'll be my friend.
I like it.
Interesting.
All right. Now, you maybe not want to talk about this, but it's too bad. I know who wasn't your friend many years back in that Super Bowl. Dave's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but I did a deep dive. I remember the game, of course, but I went an hour and a half on this. I have to ask, which of the 17 blown calls against the Seahawks in Super Bowl 40 was your least favorite?
Well, I'm not going to blame the officials for that Super Bowl, but the turning point for me in that game was the holding call. We had the ball threw a pass to Jeremy Stevens on the 1 yard line, and we called a holding call on our right tackle. And I think it was Clark Hagan's got a great jump, or too good of a jump, but he got a great jump. We got a holding call, and that really turned the tide of the game. And for me, learning lesson for me, we had the best goal line back in football in Sean Alexander. We really know we would have scored in that situation, but instead I lost my cool. Like I absolutely lost my cool. And the very next play, the clock's running down on the play clock. I have not recovered from my anger. The play clock's like 40 seconds or whatever it is. And I have not recovered. And in anger, like I throw the ball where just a frustration, and it gets intercepted. And that was really the turning point of the game. And I did get called for a penalty on my tackle, which is unfortunate, but that was the turning point in the game. That was a tough blow for us. But again, it wasn't the ref's fault. Like we didn't play our best. And
that's our guy. That's our guy, Ike Taylor, who picked them too, who famously or infamously could never catch the ball, but he did catch it in the title game and then in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you could have caught that interception though.
Very
listen, I want to say this about no.
Clark Higgins, hold on. That was a nice sanitized version, diplomatic. I appreciate it. Clark Higgins is offsides. Locklear reaches out to protect you, Matt, and then he gets called for the hold. And then, like you said, the next play, and it was a phantom block below the belt. That was a crazy penalty against you there. And we're not even talking about the Darrell Jackson call or anything, and the Big Ben sneak that didn't get in the end zone.
That's the one. The Darrell Jackson one was a push-off. I mean, that's OPI. You're not allowed to extend your arm like that on the DB. That's what he did. I mean, it's a shame, but that's what happened.
Matt's being nice here.
Again, not blaming officials, but
that's what I like about 8. I talked to you, 8, in 2006, right after that game, and you were very nice about it. And I said, you're the only guy in the Seahawks organization who isn't blaming the refs. And I don't know how I said it, but you got mad at me on the air. We were on the radio together, and I don't know what I was like. Wait, I'm complimenting you, but for some reason you were wrong.
I really get mad. I mean, listen, I'll be honest. It took a little bit to get over that loss because we really feel like we were the best team in football that year. And it was a good lesson. It doesn't matter who the best team in football is. It matters who wins the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. 2 teams show up and win the Super Bowl. The Pittsburgh Steelers were a wild card team. They went on the road and won against good teams and got it done. And that's kind of the lesson. You saw that lesson last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think after week 5 last year, they had a 5 or 6% chance of going and winning the Super Bowl. Couldn't even win their own division. And yet they win it, and everybody's picked to win it again. So it was a good lesson. It just stunk. We won 13 or 14 games that year, whatever it was. And we played a bad game in our first game of the year and our last game of the year. And it just, it sucks. But that's what happened.
You know what also sucked? Mike Pereira jetting off to Costa Rica just minutes after the game.
That was convenient, right?
Yeah.
What are you, Mike Holmgren now? Sal, what are you, his progeny or something? You don't have to stand up for the Seahawks just because we're talking to 8 here. But by the way, Hasselbeck, I'm curious about this because I talk about it all the time. From the time you left the league, which feels like 3 minutes ago, to now, it feels like there's been a gargantuan leap in terms of the number of quarterbacks that are pretty good and viable options. I mean, like 6-7 years ago, I used to say, how can we not find 32 human beings in a planet of 7 billion to successfully play quarterback in pro football? Now I feel like there are at least 32 guys. And the pipeline is rich in college. Do you agree with that? Or is it the rules that now slant so heavily in favor of quarterbacks, and that's what makes it appear easier? Or they're just more talented kids coming up and being taught earlier how to do it?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different things. You got all these kids doing 7-on-7 leagues and all this kind of stuff now at a young age. I can promise you, I never did any of that stuff. I was playing tight end till I got to high school, and I only got moved because I was too skinny to block anybody. So like that's something. The spread offense has like really just taken over college football, and now you've seen it come into the NFL RPO game instead of 7-step drop back game, play action game, some of that type of stuff. You don't have to necessarily learn blitz pickup like you had to do in the Troy Aikman years, if you will, because there's a way to win with smoke and mirrors and RPO type stuff. But the rules are definitely a thing. I thought Tom Brady hit it on the head this year where he said, we got to stop fining these defensive players for some of these hits and fine the quarterbacks and the quarterback coaches for telling you it's okay to throw into that tight window where you're kind of laying somebody out. But it's a lot of things. I think it's great for the game, though. Obviously, the scoring is fun. The quarterbacks are great. And there are some just unbelievably talented guys, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, just some young talent out there that's like, I mean, I played it for a long time, played with a lot of people. I don't know that I've ever played with somebody as talented as those three guys I just mentioned.
What about, aside from them, of course, they're great. But what about the crop of 5 that came up this year? Who excites you the most? Who do you like watching the most? Who do you think has the most promise?
Well, it's tough because like it matters so much where you get drafted and who you get drafted to, and like, are you thrown out right away? And like Zach Wilson, who's got an amazing arm, but like, is that a great situation? No, I don't think that's a great situation. You know, Mac Jones playing right away. I think it's a pretty good situation because of who's coaching him and who came before him. I thought Trey Lance had a chance because of how they were using him early. They didn't throw him to the wolves. They were using Jimmy G, and they would bring Trey in just special red zone situations, short yardage situations, gave him kind of a small menu to choose from. And he was doing that really well. When Jimmy G got hurt and he had to play, it was a disaster. You know, now you got a kid who's very, very young. I think he's 21 years old. He's played one game since he was 20. That was against Central Arkansas. You know, like that's a tough situation. Justin Fields is the guy that I thought after the preseason, wow, this guy's got tremendous upside. He could be the next Russell Wilson type guy. But that's if they don't throw him to the wolves too soon. And unfortunately, when Andy Dalton got hurt and the media was calling for it, I thought they went to him sooner than what I would say would be ideal. And then he had one net passing yard against Cleveland and really looked like his year was just going to be a total fail. But he's turned it around. Bill Lazor's calling plays for them now. But I guess to summarize, it's more about the situation you go into than it is about the person. So we'll see.
I think we were spoiled by Herbert and Burrow, who were so good so immediately, right? And Burrow's season was cut short, and even Tua, you know. But now it's like these 5 are kind of the same. And like you said, it really depends on the situation, the team.
Yeah. And Herbert didn't play right away. You know, and
right.
I'm not saying you got to sit a guy the whole year, but sitting for a month now, like week 5, you go into a game plan with a 4-game breakdown, which tells you basically who the opponent is. Weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's a blind date. Like they can do whatever. They don't have to show you who they really are. And it's really hard to prepare in the first month of the season for that reason. So I kind of think of week 5 as that week where, all right, now it's safe to like run him out there and we can kind of understand like what atmosphere and what X's and O's we're throwing you out there for.
Right.
When you're saying the situation, are you at like, is it more so about the coaching staff or is it more so about the roster around it? Because like I wonder about like a Trevor Lawrence or a Zach Wilson I should say, who first-year head coach, first-year offensive coordinator, and the backup quarterback is Mike White. He's not somebody who is, you know, quote-unquote a mentor, so to speak, or a Trevor Lawrence who has a first-year head coach, or Justin Fields who has a coach who's been on the hot seat, versus Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, where Bill Belichick is not going anywhere no time soon. And, you know, Mac Jones walked in day one and was competing for the job, and depending on how you feel about Cam Newton, was probably going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of it. I go back to my rookie year, okay? My rookie year, Mike Holmgren's the coach. Brett Favre's the starting quarterback, okay? They had just been in the Super Bowl. Favre just won the MVP. Our quarterback coach is this guy named Andy Reid. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, okay? Mm-hmm. The backup quarterback is this guy, Doug Peterson. Don't know if you've ever heard of him. The backup to him is Rick Meyer. I was the 4th string quarterback. It was like the Harvard Business School for a young quarterback. They were paying me to be there. I should have been paying them to be there. Now, was I allowed to talk in the meetings? No, I wasn't allowed to talk in the meetings. I was just allowed to be in the meetings. But when those meetings would end and we would walk from the quarterback meeting room to the locker room, I would walk next to Doug Peterson. I would ask Doug Peterson all the questions that I wanted to ask if I was allowed to ask. And I did that for a year. Like that was my first experience. Had I been drafted to some other team, some random team whose coach was terrible, quarterback was selfish, they didn't have good backup quarterbacks, and, you know, a staff that maybe got fired the next year or should be fired the next year, I promise you I would not have played 18 years in the NFL. I would not have been as successful as I was. I probably would have been like one and done, just grouped in with a bunch of other guys that are just labeled like loser, bust, don't have it, you know, whatever. But instead, I was in fertile soil for young quarterbacks to grow, saw what it looked like to be a championship team. My locker was across from Reggie White next to Leroy Butler. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So some guys go to situations like that, and some guys, go to situations where you're just not even sure what the plan is.
That's great.
Did
insight.
you say though?
He's
Did you say
go,
when you
Shaq.
walked in there like
he's got a hard out in like 40 seconds?
Oh, okay. I just wondered if he said like I'm going to try out for a quarterback of the Packers and I'm going to win it.
We'll have to do another one on that story. It's a good story.
And the next one you got to tell us, hot take it real quick. Russell Wilson, who you mentioned, this is his last year in Seattle, right?
Oh, how does he hot take that real quick?
Could be.
He could say yes or no. He could say yes or no, and then we say goodbye, and that's the end of it.
It's the NFL. Did we ever think that Aaron Rodgers is going to leave Green Bay abruptly next year? Like,
you're right.
They didn't see it coming. So if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody.
Matt Hasselbeck, I look forward to Monday night as the Seattle Seahawks honor the greatest bald quarterback of all time. Congratulations. We're going to be watching, and we're excited to see you on Sundays at 10 a.m. on ESPN. Thanks for joining us, pal.
All right, guys. See ya.